we're humans, and life happens in many, many different ways. It's
Yeah.
actually just one of these incredible things that I'm like going through these different theories again. And I'm like, I was really, really on my game like a long time ago, and I could like just rattle off all the theories for you and whatever. And I'm not at that level anymore, but it won't take me long just to do the research reading and well, it'll take quite a bit of time to just rebuild that picture. But I know what it is specifically that I want to focus on. And it's fascinating. Once you start to see it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
And that reference was to what? The specific topics that you do, or the over picture, the general?
It's really like, I'll get into it, in this meeting and meetings to come. But it's pretty like amazing. There's like, really when it comes down to it, there's two possibilities of bias in physics and science. And the one is to objective materialism, and the other one is to wave theory. And it all comes down to the principles of light and the subatomic realm, where there's this particle wave duality of light and the subatomic realm. And if you choose particle, then you're into objective materialism, and we live in a world of things and blah, 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 and materials and resources, and then we must plunder the earth to get rich, to ensure that we survive into the future, and everyone else, forget about them. It's just all about us. It's a lifeboat model. And then you have the wave theory, and you realize that events result in the radiation outward of energy. So you could have nuclear fission or fusion on the sun, and that releases from the actual subatomic realm of the atoms, the hydrogen atoms mainly, and other atoms, but mainly hydrogen, and out go these waves of vibrations we call light and many other different frequencies across through space. And then there's this concept of E equals mc squared, where mass and energy have this equivalence that Einstein discovers in his special theory of relativity. And it's really basically energy combines together to form mass. And that's what our whole reality is created out of. But it's fascinating. If you really go back to it, it's like mass becomes vibrant energy radiating outward. And if you look at a simple sine wave, sinusoidal wave, it starts radiating out and becomes this wave. And as it becomes this wave, the wave is cause and effect. Whatever comes before results in what comes into the future. And then it's like everything that you're experiencing now in your life is the result of something that you did or something that happened. So we have this karma and this cause and effect and whatever, and all of that sort of, those concepts come from the event which created the energy flow, which created the reality, in the future. So it's like, it's fascinating when you go from the basic principles of wave theory to reality, and you see that it's the same principles, it's the same wisdom playing out. It's absolutely fascinating when you start to see it. So my grandson is like, when I was trying to tell him about this, and he got up all grumpy because he's tired, because he didn't go to bed until like 11 o'clock last night. He's exhausted. And I then watch his energy, and that energy can have a negative effect on me, and I can choose to respond to that with the same energy. But then I just say, I speak to him nicely and I say, listen, I really want to tell you something about science and whatever. And then he like decides, okay, he's going to sit and listen. And then I explain this concept of, what we do now results in our future, going through the wave theory first and everything. And he's like, oh, I get that, And his whole attitude changes. And his attitude changed because of the event that I created to set up that scenario. We are the creators of the events which result in the reality that we live in. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. I had heard a lecture from was Sadhguru, And he was just talking about the inevitability of this moment and the inevitability of the life that we lead. And it was parallel to what you were just saying, that because of every choice we've made or every action we've done prior to this, there's no way we could be in any different time and place than where we're at right now. We've caused it all, and we're living in the effects of it all. So yeah, I get that strongly. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what's so amazing? It's like it comes down to the basic principles of the vibrations of our very reality and the existence of what we are. And how can we honestly believe that we live in a world of things? It's like really? You can see it. The wisdom's there. The nature of everything is there. Why don't we see it? Why is it not the main driving force of physics? Why isn't it? You know?
Well, yeah, because we're so much inundated with this, our outfit, and yeah, I guess before we could put together this concept of action and waves and frequencies, we were more occupied with how do I make this hunger pain stop, or whatever. So we focused on the physical immediately, and that's what we learned from early on. So it's, look, we get into our 50s and 60s and 70s before we really start to question. So, okay, what is it that I'm doing here on this planet? Some of us do. Some of us catch it early on. But yeah, that whole force towards materialism, and then seeing everything as a resource for material use, which obviously is what got us to where we are today in the world. So I would say that's why we were just thrown from a very young age and didn't get the training we needed, or not the training, it's even just the revealing and the opening up of, here's another thought process you might want to look at the world. And, I think what took place of that was all the rules of religion, so it was thou shalt not and all that. And that replaced your understanding of who you are in the world just by, here's some rules to understand how you're supposed to be in the world. And yeah, it takes a long time to shed all that stuff and start to critically think, what just happened? Who am I? What's going on right now?
Yeah. But that's been like my life's journey. It's like, okay,
I get it.
It's what's the story about Father Christmas and Easter bunnies and religions? And no, come on, guys, tell me the truth. So and that was happening like really, really early on in my life. It's like I was 6 and 7 years old. Like I was like, before I was 6, I was standing in a school in a club scout hall, which was like right next to where we lived. It was like just over the fence, and I had, like, my parents had decided I needed to become a cub, and I had to read this like Pledge of Allegiance to the Queen. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I say this? I don't even know this lady. It's like, what? I pledge allegiance to the Queen. Who? What? I don't even know who she is. And I mean, at that age, I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm telling lies. I don't even know who she is. And so, like, it's like been a theme. And like you say, right throughout our lives, whatever we did before leads to where we end up.
Just play along, kids. Do what we tell you. It'll be okay. Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
And we go throughout, a lot of us. Fortunately, you picked it up early. I mean, I was rebellious, certainly, but to authority. Took me a few years longer than that. But we go along because we're told playing the game is the good thing to do, And just, and we want to love our parents and want them to love us and blah, blah, blah.
We want to please them,
Yeah, we want to get validated by people and the need to belong and all that. So we go along with it. And it's just, as you know, just one con, more propaganda, more hypnotism after the other.
It's absolutely incredible.
Well, you see, not to take it too far off, but a lot, I'm going to say it, I don't know if it's true, but a lot of the backlash against COVID and COVID restrictions and vaccines and all of that, I really believe has to do with people just got, you guys aren't helping me at all. As a matter of fact, everything you decide, meaning government, is pretty much against me. And we've seen it certainly in the past 4 years here, with how much beneficence and riches went away from the people up to the small group of people. And I think a lot of it is just, the protests and whatever it be, Black Lives Matter to, again, COVID and the whole election thing and all that. It's like, this system is whack and we're seeing it, and you got nothing you can say to me is going to dissuade me anymore, because now I've opened the curtain and I see what's going on. What we do with it next is, as you know, the critical thing, that we've come to this watershed of, just woke up, if that's the phrase we can use. How the population of Earth handles this in relationship to the rulers and the power brokers that have been, that don't want to give it up, will be, I think, our critical choice. We can change the direction of the already existing conversation, as we well know, or that conversation continue to steamroll civilization until it's not around anymore.
Yeah, it's one thing to look at these people and think they're absolutely crazy, and then it's another to like, oh my gosh, maybe there's more to, I think what's happened there is it's been a simple thing of Trump knew of quite a few of the things that were bothering humans, and he used that and created disinformation and turned it back against government, so that he became a populist and became powerful because of that. But the problem is that people don't know that they were literally conned with using what their action is to being abused by government for how long? Endlessly, and taken advantage of and lied to and whatever. And then just another liar took over and took those things that were like, we don't want the free trade agreements that are just sending wealth up to the super rich and destroying the economies of the world. We don't want that, Friedman economics. And so he supposedly used that. I didn't follow it too closely, but he used that as one of his things to gain popularity, and people are like, yeah, for sure. But then the disinformation and the lies and it just it created this whole we have no idea about the truth anymore. You've got a liar and a liar and liars and liars. Everyone who's in power is lying to us, and then when somebody speaks out against them, they're going to end up in prison for telling the truth about the lies. It's like, really? It's insane.
Yeah, look at that. We'll see. I woke up this morning and I read for about an hour before I started going around doing things. And, there are a lot of talk about the Biden administration coming in and what's possible, but also the people that he's choosing for cabinet. And so many arguments about why bring in the people from back then and those same old policies. We need to continue to move forward. And it's, everybody's jockeying for who gets to set the conversation, who gets to set the agenda. And of course, there are many factions out there now, certainly built up over the past 4 years, that say, we're not going anywhere. I don't care that we're not in power. We're not going anywhere. And we're going to fight tooth and nail until inauguration day. And then we're going to come at you from a different angle. So we're in for, this is the way the world is now. It's chaos. And I don't know that that's a bad thing. But you got to watch who's behind the scenes grabbing the food from your storage shed while you're out there fighting.
That's chaos, it, like the French Revolution. It's like, oh, great, we dealt with the aristocracy, but you didn't. All you did is you took one group of aristocracy and you got rid of the other, and then you put them back in there. And that's basically all of these revolutions throughout time. That's really what it is. It's like different groups of elite, power-hungry people just moves into power as the other gets taken out. It's
Yeah.
like the actual true fundamental change doesn't happen because we haven't changed the way we think.
Yep.
It's only when we wake up and we change the way we think and how we behave that the true power shift happens. And it has to come from the people. And really, that's where it comes from. And if that doesn't happen, then nothing happens. It's the same old to the end.
So what a perfect setup it was to set division among at least in the US, the people, so that there is no alignment, and they got them fighting each other. And then to destroy all the structure that supported the good in the world, and then say, okay, I'm done. Well, they're not saying that yet. They're saying I'm still around. But yeah, it's just the perfect setup for destruction and deconstruction, which I think is what's happened. And, their agenda to where we're heading, is it, population decimation? Is it, control over whatever? Is it the destruction of the planet? Is it allowing the aliens now to come in that we've done their dirty work? I don't know where it's going to head, but I'm open to lots of possibilities.
It really, to me, it's the same old story. It's like the Democrats have got this group of business interests that drive them, and then the Republicans have got this set of business interests, which is old coal and whatever, and all these whatever that drive them. And so there's big money coming in from these special interest groups, which is now we have these one extra faction, which is going to be the Trump faction that, maybe the populist rulers or whatever. And then you're going to have the Democrats, but then of course you might have the Democrats and the Republicans as separate. So it's like, it's like a disintegration into different political factions that's going to happen into the future. But it's still led by money and power. It's like, it's not the answer.
Well, I've never thought politics on the mega trend level that I'm seeing now in my advanced years. Certainly the past 8 or 10 years. So to see, looking back, as we're talking about, we can only be at this moment based on what's happened. Looking back at what's happened in this country, the tax giveaways to the rich of trillions of dollars, the cutting people's ability to earn a living, even to be safe and comfortable, even in their own house. All the psychological, the economic, the social, all those things that have happened in the past 4 years, but even before, but most obvious in the past 4 years. Like, what is all this setting up to have happen? People can't afford to get food, never mind go to a protest or talk to their congressman or, be a real change. So it's kind of like, let's make them barefoot and pregnant and poor and chained. And then we can go about doing with the rest of the stuff we want to do.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. It's like, it makes me feel so desperate. I go on this Toastmasters group, and this one guy, a really, really nice guy, I can't afford to pay for these things. So I just said, look, I wouldn't mind being part of this, but, I really can't afford it. Just like hard to him, and he's like, oh, dude, I'll pay for you, and so he's a Spanish American, very, very nice guy. And then there's so many people in the group. There's this one woman who's like, she's a legal woman. She's into sort of conflict resolution and so on. And she brings up this like religious, introduction to the meeting. And I'm like, really? And then the others, like the meeting has to start with the flag of the United States of America, and let's pledge allegiance. And it's like, can you not see that you're so indoctrinated into a paradigm that you're not thinking for yourself? Do you think you're separate from the rest of the world, and that's why you have to pledge allegiance to a flag? And then there's this other woman who's like, so like, she was raised in Cuba and whatever, and various places, and she's accepted the party line of the politicians, and she basically hates anything that is social and whatever, socialistic views and so on. You know, anything that cares about others, you know, it's like, screw them, I'm all right. And, you know, I'm living in the greatest country in the world. It's like, no, you're not. You're living in a country that thrives off plundering the rest of the world. It's like, you know, it's the indoctrinated minds of Americans, which is our biggest problem. It is such a religiously governmental biased historical view and everything. There's no open-mindedness. There's no thought going on, no independent thought. It's it's crazy. I mean, there are people like you who are like the exception from the rule. You know, it's like you're thinking, but the majority are so indoctrinated. And I mean, I drove around picking people up when I was an Uber driver, all over the place, picking up people and taking them. And the people who were the most open-minded came from other countries around the world. All right. And the Americans themselves, especially the American males, the American football jocks and whatever. Oh my gosh, the most closed-minded people I've ever met in my life. In general, I'm generalizing, okay. Every now and then you'd meet somebody who was like exceptional and you'd be like, wow, I need to talk to you, you know. And but it's relatively rare. Just from my sort of like uh, 18 months of just picking up people, that's the trend that I get. That's the feeling, you know, how true it is or whatever. Um, because I didn't, you know, look at the whole population of America, but just as a general feel, that's what I get, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As you were saying that, apparently it's a military jet just went by. I don't know if you heard it in the background, but I was
yeah,
going to
yeah,
jump up to see what it was because it's a very different plane, but it just brought that back. It's like, and then there's that mindset that we need to have these rocket fueled jet planes that you know, can get to wherever they need to go and drop killing machines on them. Just another
yeah,
mindset. So that whole military, we need to be safety. Now, you know, I know history. I've read about certain things. I watched a couple of episodes of Games of Thrones, so I know that men or mankind are prone towards violence and protection and attacking, and it comes from scarcity or domination or any number of other things that don't quite lead us to how we can use everything here as part of us. When I said use, maybe that's a bad word, but how we can accept everything that exists as part of us, and we just start to create that isolation, our little pockets, and you know, our little cliques and our tribes, and then you know, our countries, and you know, whatever it turns into.
but you know that's the illusion. That the illusion is that it's human tribalism. And so the fundamental necessity for us to live with a tribal wisdom and connected to nature and life and everything has been smeared with this like, oh, humans are all aggressive and need to sort of kill one another and dominate and whatever. It's not true. In those tribal situations, the sense of community and the connectedness and all that is so much better, because as humans we have this ability to really like have like about 180 or so people within our tribe that we know, like, and you know, we connect with and so on. But then once we go beyond that, we're really not connecting at the same level. So it's like the ultimate ecosystem of relationships. um, so um, we can't paint them all with the same brush. You know, it's like there have been
Sure.
giving and receiving tribal communities like the Bushmen, who speak in cliques, and they're amazing human beings, and their care for nature and the care for one another, and Yes, they hunter-gatherers. They gather a lot and they hunt with little bows and arrows and on foot. So they, their capacity to hunt fast-moving animals is not as great as the ability to forage, So they live in this really balanced sort of ecosystem way of living. We can't put them under the same brush and say they're rampant killers and they're bombing with atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. No, they're totally different mindsets. The one is like supreme, technologically empowered superego and money and power taken to the extreme. That's different.
Yeah. Well, that whole concept again, I never lived in a tribal setting per se, at least not what we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, is it human nature? Is it human disinformation? Is it human aberration that we are the way we are now, that we don't live in those communities like that? And I would guess, as in many things in life, there are mutations that happen for a variety of reasons, and that mutation sometimes goes unnoticed until it's already infected a garden or a community or a family or whatever it might be. And without having a connection to a source that we absolutely trust, as this gives the information I need to live in the best possible way, we're going to make up stuff and we're going to make mistakes, and the mistakes will then kick in their own ripples of effects. And
yeah,
maybe changing other people's minds or making people angry or making people sad, and all of that happens. So I think it's a point I've played a lot with, and I don't have an answer for it yet, but I think our ability to adapt and to true up is probably more likely who we are than we were this perfect being that has been virusized or whatever it is, infected. So I'm not sure is there a human being or is there a society that we are or ever was that was without strife and turmoil and conflict and all that? Or is that just part of human nature, is to see how can we get through this in a sustainable, positive, empowering way versus the one we're in now, take, grab, kill, whatever. So I'm not so sure what human nature is. Maybe that's this crux of my thought right there. Is human nature to be this ideal, wonderful person? Or is it to work through all the circumstances of the world and arrive at that?
I think the whole, one of the main themes of this whole journey is really what our values and beliefs are, like what our fundamental thoughts are, results in how we behave and the world we manifest around us. And there are these very real institutionalized pyramid schemes that are indoctrinating us to believe in this paradigm. And it's objective materialism. Everything was created once. There's one source, one God. It's all about centralization of power to make very few people rich. And whether it's government and institution, it's all about centralization of power. And being institutionalized means that that same story and the same values and beliefs are passed on from generation to generation to generation. And as every generation expands in number, that same nonsense is perpetuated and it's expanded and grown, and it's become the human psyche. All right. It's become like we've been hijacked. We've been indoctrinated with nonsense. All right. And there are basically two fundamental premises in the balances of life. One is to create and grow life, and the other is to destroy life. And in any ecosystem, there are the herbivores and there are the predators. It's like, and the combination of the two tends to create the balances, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. So we're capable as humans of living the creative, nurturing, love-based way or we are capable of living the destructive, selfish, egocentric way, and the taking way, and the killing and the plundering way. So what do we choose? All right. We have a choice. It's either one or the other. And so far, human civilizations have chosen the pyramid scheme because it's so much easier to go and kill and take and just steal and just like, and this is all mine just because I can take it, because I'm more dominant and I'm a man, I can just do as I please. All right. That's the ultimate destruction of the commons, because the commons is all of nature, it's all of the air, the water, and everything. And if people only take what they need and they live sustainably and they contribute continuously to the ecosystem growth and development, then we live in a living, growing world, a love-based paradigm. And that's the choice, as opposed to the death and hate-based paradigm. So what do we choose? You know, it really, it comes down to that. And if we choose the love-based paradigm, that is what we need to institutionalize and teach our children. If we do that, we live in a totally different world. It's like, what do we want? The yin and the yang, or the yang? And right now, the masculine, dominant, destructive force is the destructive power that humanity, male and female, are being indoctrinated into in civilizations through education, through government, through media and everything, to be this destructive, taking, plundering force. Because it's easier to chop down a tree than it is to grow one. But it's not sustainable. You know, it's like eventually there's nothing left. All right. How do we survive without the ecosystems that sustain our lives? We don't. All right.
Yeah.
So at some stage, the human psyche has to realize, oh my gosh, we've been screwed over for the benefit of the few and the rich and wealthy, just to send wealth and power to the top of the pyramid. And we need to just shift that the fundamental values and beliefs on which we live our lives. And where do we find that? We go right down to the essence of reality, and we see how a wave is cause and effect. It's happening. We see the connectedness of the universe, and we realize that we're one. You know, it's like there's this wisdom that's like foundational to life and everything. It's there. All we need to do is look at it and take that nurturing, growing, loving way of living that creates and grows life and make that our way of life. It's simple. Instead of being selfish, egotistical, and plundering and killing and destroying just because I'm special and you're not. But it's institutionalized, you know, that it's like religion. Yeah.
Well, I get that. You know, as you said it, I'm thinking the word popped into my mind early on, responsibility. And as you're talking about people who have chosen the pyramid scheme, I said, yeah, they get to absolve themselves of the responsibility because it's coming from them and they're the ones. And the same thing with love, you know, the choice of love is, if we choose to be responsible, then I would say naturally we would then be loving, or being loving would necessitate being responsible because of all the things that love entails. But people really have been indoctrinated not to take responsibility. It's, you know, we got it planned. Of course, religion does that, governments do that, all the, you know, your bank, your investors, your broker, it's like your teachers, even your parents. Yeah, well, don't worry, we'll tell you what to do. We'll raise you properly.
Exactly. You're the children of God. You can't think about these things. It's way beyond you. Don't worry, we've got it under control. Yeah, it's like, really.
And so that's the paradigm we've been taught since we were infants.
That's it.
And, you know, I have to admit that the first few years of life were pretty helpless. So being able to grasp those concepts and understand what's going on, I think we get them. You know, we understand the love of a woman's breast and cuddling, and, you know, the love of parents and adoration, all that. And then, now you got to live, though. So this is different. You can't live that way and survive. You got to go a different route.
But that's the paradigm's lie. it's like we live now in a money and objectified and disintegrating and whatever paradigm. This is what you're taught is the only way to live. But that's the ultimate lie, because it is the ultimate short-term way of living, and to go and have a party and just like take everything for yourself and whatever. But then at the end of that party, when you wake up in the morning, what do you have? Devastation, pollution, destruction. And now are you able to live in what you have left? No. So it is the ultimate lie. You know, it's like we have been so conned. It's unbelievable.
Hello, fellow con. Yes. Live long and rebel. I think
that's it. Yeah.
That would be an interesting paradigm. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, your topic today, we got off on a wonderful conversation, which I always enjoy. You had a specific topic you wanted to talk about today?
Yes, I did, and I wouldn't mind going into it, but you know, yeah, this is.
I can stay on this route too.
Well,
you and I do fine, so it's not a problem.
So what we've been doing here is just as valuable as any specific topic, but what I'm doing in this specific area of science is I'm really going down to the essence of everything. It's like if everything begins with a cause, what is the essence? What's the cause? What is the natural wisdom? You know, why is our world like it is? And how is it? Is it like they say it is, or is it not? Is it something different? And so, yeah, I don't know how much time we've got left, but I'm happy to go in that direction.
It's like about half an hour left.
Okay, so I've written a lot, so I'll just do one section and then we'll move from there next week and the following week and so on, whatever.
By the way, Dennis, before you start on this, I will propose that going down to the essence that you're about to with science is the same thing we get to do with our inner spiritual and thought processes as well. So I get where you're going. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, you know, if I had like 2.5 hours to go through what I've done, what I've prepared, oh my gosh, it'll blow your mind. It's like this first part might be a little bit off the topic that we're speaking about now, but the thing that goes after and after and after, you'll be like, whoa, I get it. Anyway, so cool. It's just going to happen over a few weeks, you know, instead of happening, you know, all at once.
Okay. Well, you know, we can always find a way, if it is engaging for both of us, to cover it without having to do it once a week on Sunday. So.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
there's always that option.
We can make another plan and go through this, and because there's like, I think this is where the rubber meets the road. You know, yes, we've looked at belief systems and you know, religions and all those things, but this is like where it begins, like an event like fusion or fission, and then the progress of the releasing of the energy out into space, and the values and beliefs and the wisdom and like what is space. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely it's just awesome stuff. Anyway, so I'm super excited, you know. I'm like, yay, this is magic.
I got it.
Is where anyway, so I know how to make myself happy when I'm talking to myself.
There you go. Look at that. Yeah.
So this was just a priceless discussion between Curt and I on basically what we're talking about. If you would like to continue with this discussion and what I spoke about next, it is Help Save Our World Speak number 52. I'll see you there.